Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wabihi nasta'in ala kulli umuri dunya wa din. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina wa habibina wa syafi'ina wa nuri qulubina wa qurrati a'yunina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Nawaitu ta'alluma wa ta'anim wa tadhakkura wa tazkir wa naf'a wa zifa wa ifada wal istifada والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني مشرب السافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amin. Okay. Bismillah. Right, so we are doing our fiqh still. Let me on my video. So everybody also just on. I think you're supposed to all on our videos, Right. So purity from the two ritual impurities. Last week we reached the point number 5, right? We reached the commencement of the time of the prayer. We're there, right? Inshallah. Okay, so we're at number 5, the commencement of the. We finished. If I'm not wrong, we finished up till here, correct? Right. So we finished up till covering one's aura, private parts, and facing the Qibla, right? Being that facing the Qibla, you have to face the Qibla with your chest and not specifically your face, right? It has to be done with your chest, not specifically your face. Okay, right. Okay, so any questions on that part? Okay, there are no questions. We're going to go to number 5. The commencement for the time of the prayer. So you can only begin to pray when the prayer timing has come in. So you cannot begin to pray when the prayer time has come in. And of course, when you must have certainty of all these conditions. So if you're uncertain that if the prayer time has come in or not, then it is not valid for you to perform the prayer. So if you pray without full certainty that is Zuhur, and it becomes later on to you the knowledge that it is Zuhur, your prayer was invalid to begin with because you prayed without certainty. You have to pray with certainty. So for example, you pray at 1:30. You're not so sure, Zuhur or not Zuhur already or not so sure, right? So you say maybe it's Zuhur, so you just pray. Later on it comes to you the knowledge that Zuhur was 1:20, right? So okay, you prayed in Zuhur time. Was your Zuhur valid? No, it was not valid because you prayed without certainty. You must pray with certainty, right, of the prayer timing, right? So that is point note number 10. Let me just read the footnotes. Number 9, this is a necessary condition for the 5 fard prayer, which must be performed while facing the proper direction of the Qibla, whether a person is musafir, traveler, or a muqim, non-traveler, riding in a vehicle or not. A musafir may perform the Sunnah prayer without facing the direction of Qibla. So basically, right, to face the Qibla is wajib for all compulsory prayers. Right, facing the Qibla is wajib for all compulsory prayers. So whether you are a traveler or non-traveler, you must face the Qibla. Right, so this brings us to the issue of what if we're on a vehicle, right, by which we're unable to face the Qibla. Right, so for example, on an aeroplane. So when you're on an aeroplane, right, you have to try your very best, right, to stand first and foremost to pray, right? Because you to pray seated in an aeroplane is deficient, right? So as far as you are able, basically the ruling in fiqh is that you are to do the most of what you can of what is compulsory. You are to do the most of what you can. There is a principle in fiqh. You must do it in that way, right? So in the aeroplane, right, if no one's stopping you from standing, stand lah. Right, go and find a place, get an area, right, when everyone's sleeping or whatsoever, go to find an area and then just put out a blanket and pray standing. For myself, I traveled back and forth from Singapore to Darim a few times, and every time I'm in the plane, I will stand up and pray. If it's prayer time, it's prayer time. Prayer, prayer. Right. So sit down and pray. If they scold, you scold lah. Just be thick skin lah. Right, just be thick skin. Like don't have to. I mean, they scold you. They don't know you anymore. After that, right? You go off in your own life. They're not gonna follow you, right? So if they get upset with you for that time you prayed Zohor, they get upset with you lah, right? Like nothing happens. They just scold you about it. Okay. Like, say, I'm sorry. And then you go back and sit down. Right? But basically I stand up and pray. Right? So as far as you're able to pray, as far as you're able to stand up and pray, you stand up and pray. And when you stand up and pray, it's easier for you to face the Qibla. Right? It's much easier. Right? If there's really no space to face the Qibla, an inability to face the Qibla, and you pray however you pray, because I've seen people who they will pray in their seats. They will sit down and they pray in their seats. That is deficient. Their prayer is deficient. So if someone has done that on a wajib prayer, praying the prayer in their seats, a wajib prayer, then they must qada, because you prayed a deficient prayer. Right? So if you have been traveling and you've been doing your zuhur, your asar, on the seat of an aeroplane, all those prayers are deficient. When you land on the ground, you need to qada all those prayers that you prayed in a deficient manner. Right? Now we know, alhamdulillah. Right? So go and think of all the travels, how many prayers have you prayed in that way, right? That whereby you didn't stand up. For me personally, even when I stand, and I praise the Qibla, and I praise the Qibla, I will still qada after that. Right? Why? Because the aeroplane moves quickly, at very high speeds. So while you are facing in a direction that they think is a Qibla, the aeroplane is moving at a very high speed. So while you're praying your rak'ats, like the Qibla could have moved, right? Because the aeroplane is a moving vehicle, so it could be turning. The aeroplane could be turning very well, right? So you are on a moving land, right? So where's your Qibla? Right? The Qibla is constantly moving because you're constantly turning around because the airplane moves with you, correct? Right? So for me, personally, I will pray standing up, and I'll do it the best I can in my prayer when I'm on the aeroplane, and be as thick-skinned about it as possible, right? And then when I get on the ground, I pray again. I do the qada just in case, right? So it's something that to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to do your very best about your prayers. Just pray again, and just in case it was not valid. All right. The commencement of the time of, let me just go into, okay, for Sunnah prayers, however, you can pray in the direction of the movement of the vehicle. So whichever the way the vehicle is moving, you can pray in that way. So if you're like in a car, and you're driving, to KL, for example, you want to pray Sunnah prayers, pray. You can just Allahu Akbar in the back of the car, or the coach or the bus, whatsoever. You can pray 2 rak'ahs, 4 rak'ahs, do your duha, do your sunnahs, do your this, do that, do hajat, whatsoever. Up to you. It's not an issue whatsoever. To pray in that way. It's only the wajib prayers. You have to be standing. You have to be facing the Qibla and praying in a proper manner. Okay, number 6, knowledge of it being fard. So the commencement time of the prayer. So you need to have yaqeen that the prayer has come in. The footnote there, a person must be certain about the commencement time of the prayer. If a person is uncertain about the commencement time of the prayer which he has performed, that particular prayer will not be correct, even if the prayer was in fact carried out in its required time, because the condition here is certainty, not correctness. The condition is certainty. But even if you are certain that you are incorrect, it's still not valid lah. Right? You have to be certain and correct. Right? So if you were certain, right, that it's, you look at the clock, it's 2 o'clock, and you're certain that it is Zohor, so you pray. Then later on you find out it's still 2 o'clock. Right? Because the clock is spoiled. Right? So it was 2 o'clock just now, it was still 2 o'clock now. Right? So meaning the clock is spoiled. So you were basing your Zohor on a spoiled clock. Right? So when you look at you check for the time, you realize it's 12 o'clock. It's not Zohor at all. Right? It's right in the afternoon. Right? So your first prayer is, but I prayed in certainty. Yeah, your certainty was wrong. Right? And now you are certain you are wrong. Right? So you have to redo your prayer lah. Right? So certainty on 2 counts. Certainty and correct. Right? So if someone is correct without certainty, not valid. If someone is certain without correctness, not valid. Right? You have to have certainty and correctness. It has to be correct. Right? Okay, so even if the prayer was even carried out in his required time, because he had no certainty, unless he applies his ijtihad, his discretion, to determine the time of the prayer, in which case will be correct. If he applies ijtihad and prayer was carried out before or after his time, the prayer performed will be considered a qada prayer if he has qada prayers in his responsibility. Otherwise, it will be considered as a sunnah prayer. Right, so for example, right, so if he's doing his ijtihad, so really he has no way of figuring out a time, he's just looking at the sky trying to figure out, is it prayer time? He has no clock, no watch, nothing, right? So it's ijtihad, right? Ijtihad, he's just trying to figure things out. So in him figuring things out, if he made a mistake, right, in his ijtihad, right, and he prayed the prayer before its time, right, so before the coming in of the prayer's time, then that prayer will fall as a qada prayer of a previous prayer that he could have missed, right? Or it falls as a sunnah prayer. If he does his ijtihad and he was wrong and he's praying out after the prayer's time, then no problem. That prayer will be the qada of the prayer he missed, right? Because he prayed it after the prayer's time. So in his ijtihad, to do it that way. This is why our scholars will say that it is more recommended for a person to jama' ta'khir than jama' taqdim. Right? What is ta'khir? Right? Ta'khir is that you bring zuhur into asar or you bring maghrib into isha. Why is ta'khir? Why is ta'khir? Why is ta'khir more recommended than taqdim? Why? Because if you made a mistake in your prayer timing, for ta'khir, it will fall as qada, right? Because ta'khir means you take your zuhur, you put into asar. You take your maghrib, you put into isha. If you made a mistake somewhere, right, and your ta'khir is not valid, or your ta'khir is not valid, it's okay. So your zuhur falls as a qada, right? Because you're praying after the time. But if you taqdim, that means you bring asar into zuhur's time. If you made a mistake in doing your taqdim, your asar is not valid because it's not asar time yet. You get it? Right? So if your takhir and taqdim is not valid, for takhir, if it's not valid, it falls as qada. Right? Because the time had come already. The prayer is compulsory already. The time had come already. Right? So you praying it later, it falls as qada, it's done, it's performed. Right? But if you do it earlier, if you made a mistake in your taqdim, right, then the asar falls as sunnah. Right? It's not asar. Right? Because it's not time for asar yet. You get it, eh? So when it comes to takhir and taqdim, right, the scholars prefer to do takhir. There are scholars that will say taqdim is better because in case you die. Right? So they go in that side. In case you die, so at least you prayed your asar. Right? So good news. You have prayed your asar in case you die. Right? So on that angle, okay lah, taqdim is better than takhir. No, mashallah, if you have a choice of doing either one. Okay, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, number 11, right? A person's prayer is not invalidated if he thinks all the actions in his prayer are fardu. So which brings us to this part of knowing that the prayer is fard. Right? That is number 6, to know like how in the wudu, to know the wudu is compulsory, to know the prayer is compulsory. You must know that you are praying a compulsory prayer. Right? That is important. Okay, so if you just pray, is it Allahu Akbar, I'm praying, then I'm just praying. Then as you pray, you're like, okay, wait, Zuhur. Right? So you can't do that. You have to go in the very beginning, Fardu Zuhur. Right? It is a compulsory prayer of Zuhur. You must say, Usalli Fardu Zuhri. You must say Fard. If you don't say Fard and you say Zuhur only, it counts as Sunnah. Right? You have to say Fard, the Fard of Zuhur. Right? So not the Sunnah or anything else of Zuhur. Eh? Okay, number 7, not to regard any of his fard acts as Sunnah. In this situation, right, so all the parts of the prayer, the standing, the sujud, everything, right, you cannot think that any of the fard, simply wudu, you cannot have full conviction that any of the fard acts is sunnah, right? If you say, okay, I know in the prayer there are fard acts and there are sunnah acts, I don't know what is what, I'm just going to do all. Okay, that's valid. It's valid, but of course for student of knowledge, you shouldn't be doing that. Right? Student of knowledge, you should know what are the fard of prayer, so that you know the reason why we learn fard and sunnah is so that if you make a mistake in your fard, then you know what to do. You know that you have to go back to it and redo it. If you make a mistake in your sunnah, you can't go back to it. You leave it, but you just continue on, and you know your prayer is valid because the mistake was where? The mistake was made in the fard. The mistake was made in the sunnah, right? So mashallah, I get so many questions of people saying, like Ustazah, I forgot to give salams onto the Prophet ﷺ for my Tahiyatul Awal, right? And I finished my prayer already. Was my prayer invalid? Or is it, Ustazah, this entire time I don't know how to do dua kunut. Is all my subos not valid? Dua kunut sunnah, right? Tahiyatul Awal sunnah, and all sunnah. Your prayer is valid. Right? If you know what is sunnah and what is fard, so you know what is okay, it's valid. Right? It does not nullify your prayer. Not knowing all these things, of course, it adds to your prayers a reward. Number 8, to abstain from those factors that nullify the prayer, which are going to go into them inshallah soon. Right? So what nullifies prayer? There is an entire chapter of what nullifies prayer. Okay, so not to perform anything that nullifies prayer. For example, speaking, moving, intending to nullify the prayer. Just to intend to nullify the prayer has nullified the prayer. Just to do that. So the moment that you have, like for example, you're praying and you hear like your phone ring, then you think to yourself, I should nullify my prayer. You just think to yourself, I should lah. I want to. Where is my boss? I'm going to answer the phone call, and you're in prayer. The moment you do that, saying to yourself, I'm going to nullify my prayer. If the phone goes past the 5th ring, I will nullify my prayer. Oh, your prayer already nullified. Right? Because of you saying that, it has nullified. You cannot entertain any thoughts of nullifying your prayer. Sometimes it's a whisper from shaitan. Push it away immediately. The moment it comes to you, throw it out. Don't have it. Don't entertain that thought of, someone's knocking on the door, should nullify the prayer. No, no nullifying my prayer. No, go away, shaitan. Right? Don't bother me. Because otherwise, just by thinking and entertaining the thoughts of nullifying your prayer, nullifies your prayer. It's nullified. Halas. Right? So don't let shaitan play with you, and make you think to nullify your prayer. Okay. Ritual impurities are of 2 types. Okay, so let me just go to the next part. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا به وبعلم في الدارين. الأحداث اثنان أصغر وأكبر فالأصغر ما أوجب الوضوء والأكبر ما أوجب الغسل. Why is the ahdas here? Okay, we have gone through this actually previously, okay? About the hadas. Okay, let me just read through. Ritual impurities are 2 types. There are minor ritual impurities and major ritual impurities. The first one, a minor ritual impurity, is that which makes wudu wajib, and a major ritual impurity is that which makes the bath wajib. That is understood. We took it in tahara, correct? Okay, the next part, al-awratu arba'a. Awratu rajuli mutlaqan wal amati fi salati ma bayna surrati wa rukbah. عورات الحرة في الصلاة جميع بدنها ما سوى الوجه والكفين وعورات الحرة والأمة عند الأجانب جميع البدن وعند محارمها والنساء ما بين السرة والركبة. Alright, so here they say the awrat of a human being are of 4 types. The first type is for all men. Generally, for all men in all situations, is 1 awrat, which is between the navel and the knees. Right? And there is the same awrat for the slave girl. Right? The slave girl, her awrat is between navel and knees. Right? The awrat of a free woman, right, is in the prayer is her entire body except for her face and 2 palms. Right? In the prayer, the whole body except for your face and 2 palms. The aura of a free woman and that of a slave girl in the presence of a stranger, right, of a man who is not mahram to her. Stranger meaning a man who is not mahram to her. Right, slave girl, her aura, navel and knees is in front of her master. Right, the aura of a slave girl in front of her master is the navel and the knees because she is halal for her master. Okay, for the slave girl, right, in the rulings of slave girl. Right, but in front of somebody who is a stranger, meaning an ajanib, a non-mahram man, then her awrat is the entire body. Right, this is the Shafi'i mazhab. Shafi'i is the entire body, including face and hands. Right, but of course, in Asia, we take a different opinion in the Shafi'i mazhab as well. There is a different opinion in the Shafi'i mazhab that allows for the face and the hands to be shown. Right, so we take the opinion here in Asia. Right, the minority opinion of the Shafi'i mazhab that is valid. It's a valid opinion. Right, to show the face and the hands. The feet is part of your aurat. You should be covering your feet. Okay. The aurat of a free woman and a slave girl in the presence of a mahram, right? Mahram, the unmarriageable kin, or woman of her kind. Right? So woman of her kind meaning other Muslim women. Is that between the navel and the knees. So of course it's not for us to go around in front of your brothers or your father, all your mahram, right? And then not cover what is above your navel. That's not what is meant here. Right? So what is meant here is that, like, for example, a woman, right? Of course you cover, your body parts. But what is meant is that, like, a woman when she wants to breastfeed. So when she wants to breastfeed, and her family members are around, she might breastfeed, and you might see like parts of her shoulder, right, or parts of her stomach, right, in a way. Right, it's possible for a woman because it's difficult otherwise for her to breastfeed wherever she's at. Right, so she's in a home in front of other women. She wants to breastfeed. It makes it easier for her, right, to be able to breastfeed her child, right, in that way. So in front of women who are of the same kind, meaning Muslim women. For non-Muslim women, the aurat is to cover the body as how you would cover in front of men, but not so strict. Right? They will call it in auratul mehna. Right? Auratul mehna is basically aurat that you cover. So you cover your hair, you wear long sleeves and so on, but not so particular as how you would do in front of a man. So, like, for example, if I'm in the presence of a non-Muslim, if I wear like a shawl, I got like a shawl over my head, and like my sleeves are dropping like this. Okay, they're not all the way up, but they are like coming down like this. Okay, that's okay. Because it's auratul mehna. I'm doing work. Alright, it is permissible for me to do in front of non-Muslim women. I don't have to wear socks. Right, it's okay. Right, so same thing also with the aurat of boys, in front of boys. So for a woman, you should begin to cover your aurat in front of boys who understand sexuality of a woman. And for boys, this begins with tamiz. So for some boys at the age of 7, right, some boys younger, some boys older. So for me personally, I will enforce it for those above the age of 9. And so those above the age of 9, I will enforce it. Right? So if they come to me, they want to salam me amongst my cousins or my cousins' children or whatsoever, I will stop them. Right? My own students who are 9 and above, I will stop them and teach them that now you are 9 years old, you don't salam women who are not mahram to you anymore. Right? And I will also ensure I cover my aurat in front of them. But not full, in a sense whereby in front of a man, I will wear socks and I will make sure my sleeves are up, or cover my face also in front of men. But for in front of these boys, I might wear pants. I wear pants, wear long sleeve shirts, wear a shawl, right? But the sleeves like dropping and not wearing socks, that kind of thing. Right? So it's called auratul mehna, right? Whereby it's working aurat. You're working. You're in the kitchen, you're around the house, right? These boys are around, they come to your house, to your class, right? So it's not like you're not strict aurat. So you say, not strict aurat, as how you do like when an ustad comes to the house. Okay, ustad coming, okay, you go and cover everything up, and then you wear hand socks, you wear like you cover properly. You wear loose abaya and whatsoever, because it's a man coming. It's different, right? So for a woman who is not Muslim, right, and for boys, right, who have not reached puberty yet, right, boys have not reached puberty, but they have gone past the age of tamiz. So they understand the woman body. So you have to cover, right? Cover and not allow for them to salam also. Right? So teach them, right, that you are not mahram to them. Don't salam me, and teach them who are their mahram, so they don't go and salam these people. And then for people to also educate the adults, right? That if my child is not going to salam you, is because he's understanding now that you are not his mahram. Right? So for older people to understand as well, you can teach your own family members lah that my son is no longer going to salam to the family members because they are not mahram to him, right? Or she is not mahram to them, right? So explain to the older ones especially lah. Okay, men includes young boys. See, men includes young boys, even if they're not at the age of even if they are not at the age of understanding. It generally means all conditions, whether in prayer or outside of prayer. Alright, so here there's a difference of opinion, right, about boys, whether they have reached tamiz or not. Right, so it's basically a matter of whether the boy has understood woman parts. And a lot of times, boys understand it very young. They know about woman parts very young, right? So and to be very wary. For now, at the age of 7, because we live in a highly sexualized society. So by the age of 6, 7, if they're watching cartoons, if they're watching things on TV, they will know about the sexuality of a woman. It's very young. They will know about it. Right? So it is on the woman to start to cover up, right, in front of them. The knees and navel themselves are not part of the aura, but it is wajib to cover them in order to fulfill the commandment of covering the aura completely. Basically, it's on a ruling that what completes what is wajib is wajib. So there's a ruling, what completes what is wajib itself is wajib. For example, like if I cover my head, I'm covering my hair, right? My hairline stops here, technically. It stops here. But if I were to wear my hijab right at my hairline, there's a high chance that the hair will show itself. Right? So I cover part of my face with my hijab, right, so as to ensure my hair is entirely covered. So this extra part of my face I cover is wajib to cover because it ensures my wajib. Right? What ensures your wajib is wajib. Okay, what ensures your wajib is wajib. So when I wear my inner, it covers up to here. So my hairline is behind. It's a bit behind. So I don't wear my inner right at my hairline, because there's a high chance it's going to be pulled back, and you're going to have your hair show. Right? So you pull it a bit forward, so as to ensure, right, that the wajib is being covered. So same thing with the knees and the navel. Right? If you're going to cover right at the navel, saying the navel is not aurat, it's gonna be high chance that by your navel is gonna be shown, right? So you put it up, and for the men especially. Same thing for their knees. If they're gonna put they wear their shorts, and sometimes I so annoyed with men, right? My own family members, men. Like we all women, we cover our aura all the time, no issue. You all have to cover this from the navel to the knee, so much issue. Like, can't you just wear pants longer? Like, it's not gonna kill you, right? To wear something down to your shin. Why must it be right at the knees? Why? Put it down a bit more. It's not so hot. We all wear hijab. We all wear long sleeves. We're not complaining. Mashallah. I get so annoyed my brothers, right, for doing that. Right, but it's just it's just because the knees is not part of the aurat, but to cover the knees ensures the wajib part to be covered, so the knees become wajib. The knees themselves are not wajib, but if you keep it at the kneecap right there, you're already playing at the boundary. That's not a smart thing to do. You bring it below the kneecap. Then you have become sempurna. You have covered it completely correctly. And be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in performing your acts of obedience. Don't play with these things. Same thing with a woman. When you cover your aurat, they call it a bucket that is leaking, a leaking bucket. Whereby she'll be covering her aurat, but because she's doing things to contradict the covering of the aurat. So are you trying to obey Allah or not? Basically. And so basically, for a woman, covering aurat and then wearing really tight clothing, covering the aurat, her hijab is completely translucent, right? So are you covering or not? Do you want to cover or not? So you want to cover, cover properly. Don't try and find ways around it. Don't try and try to merge hijab and non-hijab. They contradict and they don't come together. Be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just cover properly. Finish. Don't have to think so much. Mashallah. The same thing with, for me personally, is a lot to do with the wedding gowns and everything. Like if you're gonna get married, wear something shari'i. Wear something proper, covering your aurat. Why do you want to merge something that is not Sharia compliant and try to make it Sharia compliant and it's still not Sharia compliant? Think about it, right? How many wedding dresses they wear the dress, then they wear a tight inner. You're not covering your aurat. You're really not. It's not covering your aurat. And the hijab is up to the neck like that, strangling her, around her neck. You're not covering your aurat. There's no aurat being covered. You're just wearing something. You're just coloring your skin white in wearing something so tight in that way. So be very careful about that. Think to yourself, don't have a leaking bucket. You're trying to gain reward. Gain the reward. I don't do something to sabotage your own worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I really feel people are mature enough to think that way themselves, to think of that. I've seen of people. I've seen one wedding I went one time before, whereby they wore a white, like really white wedding dress, like proper wedding dress, not a Muslim wedding dress, but she wore an inner, in this, because it was a tank top, and the tank top whereby the curves are around the chest, the kind of tank tops, but it's not flat, but it curves around the chest of the woman, so it emphasizes her assets. She was wearing on the inner a black inner. She wouldn't wear a white inner, but a black inner. So from far, right, her assets were completely emphasized, and she was wearing a hijab. So like that was a very I was shocked when I came in. I was like, why is she wearing that? Didn't anyone say anything? Right, that the dress just emphasized her chest. From afar you could see it. And she's wearing a black inner and she's wearing a white hijab. To me it looked so weird, but I didn't know what to say. She was right on stage already. And so now I'm saying it to everybody now. Don't do that. Don't do that. Think to yourself. Ask, for when you have someone who's sincere to you amongst your family. For me, it was my brother, right? He will say things, right? So someone who has no issue being blunt, right, and telling you this is not right. Change it. Like wash off what you put on your face. Change it. It's or my brother, my wedding, he will say like, this is ugly. Right? Stop being ugly. Like he will say to me in my face, it's ugly, take it off, take it off, take it off, take it off. Right? So they have no qualms about saying things. And alhamdulillah for them. They will tell you if you're looking ridiculous. And then you still like, okay, I won't wear this, I won't wear this. Mashallah. But mashallah, think about it. But it happened. I saw in my own eyes people wearing this kind of wedding dresses. So covering your awrat in any way. Alright, continuing, right, note azan, the call to prayer, and iqamah, the call to commence of the prayer. The azan and iqamah are both sunnah of fard of the prayer, whether praying alone or in second jama'ah or in the second jama'ah of prayer. To call out the azan, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, I want to mention another thing also about girls, the awrat for girls, before I go on. The awrat for, what time do we finish? 10:15. Okay. The awrat for girls, from the age of 2, right? From the age of 2, the privates of a girl is awrat on men, all men, right? So even her own family members. Okay, the privates of a girl is awrat on all men, even her own family members, as far as possible. Right, so as far as possible, of course, I know there are situations whereby for a family, the mother it might be too difficult for the mother to always istinja for her small girl, and the father has to do it sometimes. But for as far as possible, for those above the age of 2, only other women are allowed to look at her awrat, right, to istinja for her. And in fact, when you istinja for children, it is preferable that you don't look at the awrat. The children, yes, right, but you just istinja for them without looking at them. Don't look at the awrat, right? But you can istinja them without looking, right? Help them istinja, right? You can istinja them without looking at the awrat. So for girls, age of 2, that's why it's something that is so, it is haram in our society. That people go to the swimming pools at the zoo. If you've been before COVID, before COVID, when you go to the zoo, the wet playground, water playground, water park, people walk around with their kids who are at the age of 4, 5, and 6, stuck naked. Children, have you ever seen that? They walk around at this water parks without no clothes whatsoever, walking around. And these are 4-year-old, 5-year-old. Our society is full of predators. They're all pedophiles around. Don't be naive. Don't be naive. So Islam, from the very beginning, Islam leaves no stone unturned. Islam covers every aspect. So even at 2 years old, a man is not to see the awrat of a girl. At 2 years old, Islam, there's a law of Islam. MashaAllah. Islam also has a law of a young boy, a prepubescent boy who has not reached puberty, cannot be alone in a room with a man who is not mahram to him. Even that is a law in Islam, in the Shafi'i mazhab. That's a law. A young boy cannot be alone in a room with a man, right, who is not mahram to him. Right? And that prevents abuse. All these laws in Islam prevent abuse. They shut every single door, right, to the possibility of abuse. So because it recognizes that abuse can happen in the home, it can happen with people, it can happen with between boys and men, it can happen anywhere. So Islam shuts the door on everything. And the awrat of a person, the privacy of a person cannot be seen by another person except the husband or the wife. Only the spouse can see your privates. Nobody else in this can see your privates. For women, between woman and woman, Muslim woman and Muslim woman is between the knees and the navel. This is something also that for people to know in your own family. You're not allowed to go around wearing shorts. You're not allowed to go around wearing shorts in your own family. It's awrat to your own siblings, to your own mother is awrat. Right, so don't. Those who people are going around wearing shorts in their houses, right, it is haram to do that. Okay, alright. Azan and iqama are both sunnah for the Fard prayer, whether praying alone or in second jama'ah. To call the azan is the person being the imam of the prayer. Okay, for women, it's sunnah to do iqama, not azan. There is no sunnah for women to do azan. It's sunnah for us to do iqama. The words of azan are Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya al falah, Hayya al falah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Alright. For the azan, the response for the azan is that you follow the muazzin as he speaks. So when he says Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. There is a sunnah of when you first hear the azan, you say marhaban. Marhaban, welcome. Marhaban biqail al-adl wa bisalah. Marhaban ahlan wa sahlan. Okay, again, marhaban biqail al-adl wa bisalah. Marhaban ahlan wa sahlan. Which means welcome. Welcome to the caller who is just, the muazzin, the just caller. Welcome to the prayer. Welcome, welcome. There is a sunnah to say when you hear the azan, to say that. And then to respond to the azan, to repeat as how the imam says, until you reach hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah, you respond by saying, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. The reason why you don't repeat what the imam says is because the imam is saying, come to the prayer. So you don't say, come to the prayer. You don't respond to the imam in that way. And the imam says, come to the prayer. You say, come to the prayer, come to the prayer, come to the prayer. Right? Who's going to the prayer where? Mashallah. So when the imam says, come to the prayer, you say, there is no power and there's no might, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning I am coming to the prayer. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah. Right, same response. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. It is sunnah for a person, for the muazzin, to recite the shahadatain in a low voice before calling it out. Right? So the muazzin, when he comes to the word Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, before calling it out, to say it silently in himself is sunnah. So he does like this. He goes, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So to himself, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Then he go again, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah is sunnah. Right? So if you hear carefully, like for example, you hear the Mustafa like radio and their azan, you will hear the muazzin do that. He will mutter to himself the shahada, then he will call it out. For the muazzin, not for the one doing iqamah, for the one doing azan. For us women, we don't do any of these things. We do only the iqamah. There's no sunnah for women to do azan. Okay, so even if there's nobody in the house doing azan, it's still not sunnah for you to do azan. It's never sunnah for a woman to do azan. And they just do iqamah. So to say the shahada quietly before calling it out. And to add to subuh, before the final takbir, to say as-salatu khairum minan nawm. As-salatu khairum minan nawm. The answer to which is sadaqta wa bararta. Sadaqta wa bararta. I'm write it down for you all. Sadaqta wa bararta. Okay. The response for this one is Sadaqta wa bararta. Okay, so each time, so it means you are true when you have done right, or you've done well. You are true when you have done well. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. Okay. So the iqama will be Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha. Have you written it down? Okay, I will just clear it. Sadaqta or bararta. You can just do a screenshot and get it. Okay. Then for iqama, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Sorry, iqama. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Here there is an answer. So with qad qamatis salah, how do you answer that? You say it by aqamaha Allah, aqamaha Allah, wa adama. Okay, aqamaha Allah wa adama. Okay, wa adamaha. Afwan. Aqamaha Allahu wa adamaha. Which means Allah has established it and Allah will prolong it. Right? So when you hear qad qamatis salah, aqamaha Allahu wa adamaha. Qad qamatis salah, aqamaha Allahu wa adamaha. Tamam? Okay. When giving the azan in the iqama, it is mustahab, recommended, to be first and foremost in the state of wudu, right? When you're doing your azan in iqama, to stand, face the Qibla, to turn your head, not the chest, because the chest must be towards the Qibla. You turn your head to the right when you say hayya ala salah, to the left when you say hayya ala falah, right? And to call it out calmly and slowly, pausing for an interval after each phrase of the azan is equal to the duration of the phrase, right? So basically to pause, after every phrase, to pause the duration of the phrase so that those who are hearing can respond to the azan, right? Which is said in pairs, right? So except for those who are say in pairs, like Allahu Akbar, right? in that situation, right? And to give iqama quickly because you're going to pray. So when you do iqama, to do it quickly. Okay. To repeat each phrase of the muazzin even if in the state of janaba or menstruation or reading the Quran. Okay, this is very important. Let me just respond to this. Okay. When it comes to responding to the azan, it is highly, highly, highly emphasized to respond to the azan. Even if somebody is reciting the Quran, even if you're reading the Quran and the azan is called, you are to stop your Quran recitation and answer the azan. I don't just have it go through. Right? So even if you're speaking and the azan is called, stop your speech and answer the azan. Even if you're in menstruation, even if you're in junub, or whatever you're in, if the azan is called, respond to the azan. It is said that the one who does not respond to the azan when it is called, and this person in fact speaks over the azan, that is one of the causes of su'ul khatimah. It's one of the causes of having a bad ending. Right? So try our best to always respond to the azan as far as possible. The question, what if it's an electronic azan? Like what if it's like my phone azan, or like my radio, my radio, for the radio it's a pre-recorded azan, or what if my computer azan, my clock azan? These are all the azans that I have around me, right? So these azans are not live azans, right? So of course they don't have the severity of live azans in that for live azans you should stop your speech and respond to the azan there and then, right? For azans that are not live azans, they're pre-recorded azans, right? You can still respond to them and you should respond to them, right? With the intention that you are responding to azan somewhere else in the world, right? So when you respond to your clock azan, for example, they are pre-recorded, yes, right? So you intend, I am responding to an azan that is happening right now in the masjids. You intend that, right? So but it's not as severe because you are not actually talking over a live azan, right? So it's a pre-recorded azan which can be stopped, right? If you want to stop the pre-recorded azan, right? But it's best that you actually continue and you respond to the azan. When you stop what you're doing and you respond to the azan. It is makruh to call out the azan in the state of hadath, and more severe in the state of janaba in major hadath, and even worse to give iqama in either of these two states, because iqama is calling people to the prayer. If you are not somebody who is fit to pray, you should not be doing the iqama, Right, so if hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, to respond with la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, with the response of as-salatul khairu min an-nawm is here. Right, to respond by saying sadaqta wa bararta, to say qad qamatis salah aqamaha Allah wa adamaha. Right, and then the dua after azan to say Allahumma rabba hadhihi ad-da'wati tamma wa salatul qa'imah آتي سيدنا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعثه وشرف وسيلة وبعثه مقام المحمول الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد يا أرحم الراحمين. So memorize the dua of after azan as far as you can. Memorize this dua, right? And the du'as after azan is mustajab, right? Between the azan and the iqamah, du'as are mustajab. So dua, say in the hadith by Rasulullah sallallahu baina kulli azanain du'a baina kulli azanain du'a liman salatun liman sha, and also du'a that is mustajab between the two azanain, between the azan and the iqamah. So dua as much as you can between them. Usually we'll dua for our parents and for our children between these two du'as. So you say ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ربي اغفر لي ووالدي ربي اغفر لي ووالدي ربي اغفر لي ووالدي وارحمهما كما ربنا صغارا, and also for your teachers and for your children as well. So you can do as many du'as as you want between azan and iqamah. Okay, for the muazzin, the conditions for the muazzin is that he has to be a Muslim, he has to be mumayyiz, age of understanding. So a young boy can be a muazzin. He has to be sane, right? So not somebody without a sound mind. And male if the azan is a jama'ah for men, right? So male to do azan. Women don't do azan, they just do iqamah, right? So even if the jama'ah is all women, you still don't do azan, you just do iqamah. Okay, bismillah. Alright, is there any questions at this point? Okay, if a question is that if you're in a plane and you're flying over a country, right, what is the prayer timing you should follow? You should follow the prayer timing of the sky, right? So of course if you're over a particular country, like you wouldn't know what the prayer times of the country is, right? Will you? I mean, because like really prayer times can really differ from country to country. So like you could be over, for example, you could be over a country at 2:30 p.m. It is possible for 2:30 to be Asar for some countries, and for some countries to be Zohor, right? So so basically when I'm in the aeroplane, for me, I will check the aeroplane map and I will check the sky, right? So let me just give you an example. So let me just draw it here. So you know how it is when, have I shared this with you all before? Or no? I can't remember whether I shared with you all before or not. Right, but basically, you know, in your aeroplane map, you know the screen, right? I'll draw the screen for you all. You have the world map, right? And you have this thing going on that looks like this, right? And they have like an area that is shaded, something like that, and shaded like that. Then they have the aeroplane, like a small icon of the aeroplane, right? And there's a world map going on, right? Like that, and so on. Okay, and then they tell you this is where basically the daylight stops, and here is nighttime, right? Okay, so usually when I want to pray, I will look at this map, right, and I will figure out where am I, right? So you know, if you are very near, if the airplane has gone very near the boundary of night and day, right, then high chances you are at Asar time, right? High chance you are not in Zohor, you're in Asar. The reason why you have to differentiate between Asr and Zuhur is because you have to intend, are you doing Jama' Taqdeem or Jama' Ta'khir? And that has conditions, and has different conditions for Jama' Taqdeem and Jama' Ta'khir, which I will go through inshallah in this chapter on prayer, right? So for the aeroplane situation, I would always recommend to do Jama' Ta'khir. Like why? Because it's very hard to figure out Zuhur. It's very hard. So you go center line in the daytime, it's not necessarily that there is Zuhur. So where's the beginning of Zuhur, where's the end of Zuhur? It's very hard to tell. For Asar, it's easier. You can tell Zuhr and you can tell when it's Asr. Most high chance is when the aeroplane is nearing the night line. So it's still evening, you can still see the sky is quite bright, but the aeroplane is quite near the night line already. So high chances it is Asr. It's called Ijtihad. Using your ijtihad to figure out what time you're in. So if it's Asr, right, then you can do your jamak ta'khir of Zuhr into Asr. For Maghrib and Isha, no issue. Wait for the plane to go way past into the night, right, the night sky, then do a jamak ta'khir of Maghrib into Isha. For Subuh, when the plane is coming from night into day, you look at the plane, it's coming from night into day. So when the nose of the icon hits the night line to day line, look at the sky. Look at the sky, to try and figure out to see if there's some brightness in the sky. So of course, for me, I'll wait enough for me to have certainty that it is subuh, right? But without the sun rising, without the sun rising. So I will see, wait, and the sky is quite bright. Mashallah, it's quite bright. The sun has not risen yet. So now go and pray 2 rakaat subuh. Right, so that is how you would do it lah on the aeroplane. So usually I use the screen and I will check the window, like, or I'll use the screen that can see the front camera of the aeroplane. There's like a front camera, right? You can see that as well. And I think there's an app also nowadays that you can help, but I'm not so sure how accurate the app is. For me, I like doing things hands on, right? So figure things out yourself, right? Because you really don't know the app whether it's accurate or not. Allahu alam. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, it's already 10:24. We'll take 3 minutes break, inshallah, and we'll continue with our Arabic, inshallah. While we here. Okay, so next week I'll do Arkanus Salah. Okay, Arkanus Salah Sab'ata Ashara. Okay. So 3 minutes break, inshallah. We'll continue after the break with Arabic.